I'm just contacting you. I just have to. So
you have to.
So there's a law that just came out.
Okay.
To where anybody I contact, even if it's consensual, I have to get your demographics that I can
really
see that I contact.
What are you detaining me for?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out, man.
Well, you can't detain somebody just till you figure it out.
Yeah, actually we can.
That's not how that works, officer.
Okay.
Yeah, you're scaring my kid. There's no point of this. You know, this is ridiculous.
In this situation, a man gets pulled over for the weirdest reason ever and gets schooled as a reward.
More than happy to let you know.
Well, you have to have a crime or infraction for me to identify myself, sir.
The officer persists in repeating the same questions in a loop. He's repeatedly asking about the person's identity and destination.
Speaking with
The driver of this car. What's your name and badge?
The man remains calm and patient, taking the time to educate the officer about the proper procedures. He does so by posing a question. Could you please clarify the reason for this stop?
What is the nature of the stop?
I want to know why you're driving by me with the window down. I'm not sure what you're doing.
Is that...
Upon closer examination, it became evident that the initial reason for pulling over the man was quite surprising. He had his car window rolled down. The man took the opportunity to clarify that driving with open windows is not a criminal offense, rendering the stop unlawful. The rest of the video consists mostly of the officer persistently asking the same question repeatedly, while the man calmly asserts his rights. In the end, the officer is left with no alternative but to release the man. In another incident, an officer approached a man and immediately asked if he had any weapons in his car. However, the officer didn't clarify what wrongdoing had led to the stop or why he had pulled the man over. The man took it upon himself to educate the officer, asserting that the officer needed to inform him about his offense before requesting his driver's license. The officer then offered his reasons, stating that he had pulled the man over for speeding and due to the flashing lights emitted by the vehicle.
And also somebody shined the light for me from this
Dash cam.
You don't think that?
So speed my ass.
Yeah.
Your speed.
As the man reached for his driver's license, he countered the officer's false claims by asserting that he hadn't been speeding and couldn't control the flashing lights coming from his dash cam. What followed was truly unexpected. The man was about to hand over his driver's license to the officer when the cop unexpectedly reached into the vehicle and took it. Perplexed by this action, the man clarified that he only needed to present the license to the officer, but the officer stubbornly disregarded his explanation.
No, all I have to do is present it to you.
Hey, whoa, what the fuck?
You can see it right there.
Hey, get your hand out of his...
In this encounter, two individuals found themselves in a public area, capturing images of their environment, which happened to encompass a police station. As they were engrossed in their photography, an officer emerged on the scene, raising apprehensions about their focus on people entering and exiting the police station. In response to this concern, the men demonstrated their awareness of their rights by explaining that they were well within their legal bounds to capture images in a public space.
Hey, you guys filming the documentary or?
Nah, just the police station.
Any particular reason?
Just so I can view it later.
Any specific reason? I mean,
Subsequently, the officer delved into his reasoning, elaborating that individuals being released from jail possessed a certain degree of privacy entitlement. In response to this explanation, one of the individuals present countered by asserting that such privacy rights do not extend to public areas, given that they were capturing footage in a space accessible to anyone. Taking this discourse further, the individuals reminded the officer of their First Amendment privileges, emphasizing their lawful right to document activities in a public space.
Yeah,
obviously we have security concerns, and when you film in this area where we're releasing people who have been arrested, they have a right to privacy.
No, they don't.
People coming in and out of jail?
If I could see them from public, they don't, sir.
How do you figure that?
First Amendment, you need to brush up on it. Anything that I can see from public, I can film. You can't trespass what I can see. So as long as I'm standing where I'm allowed to be.
Right here, it was evident that the officer's patience was wearing thin. His restlessness was becoming apparent. In an attempt to shift the conversation, he inquired whether the individuals were capturing footage for personal use. However, the individuals were well informed about their rights and politely declined to answer the question. They were aware that they had no obligation to disclose their intentions, particularly since they were well within their rights to record in that public space.
Only for your own personal needs and
We don't want to answer no questions, Jan. We'd rather be left alone.
Okay.
As the officer seemed unwilling to drop the matter, he resorted to accusing the individuals of provoking and causing distress to other people present. In response to these allegations, the young men decided to assert their rights further by requesting the officer's identification details, his name and badge number. Initially hesitant, the officer hesitated to provide this information. However, his reluctance was short-lived, as he ultimately relented and shared the requested details. But then, he just leaves.
You guys are upsetting people, which is why I'm up here. Because I could care less if you guys are up here, but
We can care less if we upset people too.
Okay. All right. Well, if
Their feelings are not our concern.
Our rights aren't subjected to their
I
feelings.
got it.
Yeah, that's right.
So antagonizing people doesn't concern you guys at all?
What is that? I don't understand
You're
how you.
antagonizing.
Yeah, exactly.
antagonizing you?
You're the only antagonizer here.
But you're in public, right?
Yeah. But you're on the clock, right? And you serve me.
Right,
You serve
I'm
the public,
doing what-
right?
I'm
And
doing what I
asking
was
you to leave me
sent to
alone.
do.
I'm asking you to break contact. I don't wish to engage with you no more.
Okay.
So you have a good day. You're dismissed.
Can you state your name and badge number, please?
No, you can see it. It's 315.
Is that what you tell the judge?
You guys can do whatever you'd like to do, and
We already.
In this encounter, a police officer pulled over a man due to the absence of a license plate on the back of his truck. In response, the man remained composed and explained that his license plate was actually located on the front of the truck, in accordance with the regulations. He further clarified that this was because he hailed from Missouri, and his truck's weight exceeded 18,000 pounds. The man even handed over all the necessary documentation to support his case. However, when the officer proceeded to request the man's driver's license, he politely declined. He asserted that he hadn't committed any wrongdoing, and thus there was no reason for him to provide his identification. The officer, appearing somewhat self-assured, then informed the man that, in the state of Arkansas where they were located, a license plate was required on the rear of the vehicle.
It's been stolen because I've got all the paperwork right here for it. Insurance.
The officer then gets educated heavily.
Not even cooperating. All I'm asking for is a driver's license.
I haven't done anything wrong.
I've explained it. If I need to, I can write a ticket to explain it.
Rather than simply examining the license plate on the front of the truck, the officer seemed intent on engaging in an argument. Insisting his authority, the officer declared that he was in control of the traffic stop. However, the man firmly countered by asserting that the traffic stop was, in fact, unlawful, since he had not committed any offense.
You go on.
You can write a ticket, but I ain't gonna do no fucking good because I'm a resident of Missouri.
A situation unfolded as a man found himself on the property of some individuals, prompting them to call the police. Upon the arrival of the law enforcement officers, they engaged the man in conversation. The man countered their assertion that he was on private property by stating that he was, in fact, not trespassing on any privately owned land. As the interaction progressed, an officer initiated a request for the man's identification, intending to issue a trespass citation. However, the man was quick to point out that he wasn't obligated to present his identification for that purpose, firmly asserting his knowledge of his rights.
I've never been on their property.
Okay. Well, it's private property.
I've never been on their property. Okay.
If they advise us they don't want you on your property,
That's fine.
we're going to tell you that you can't go on their property.
That's fine.
Okay. Can I see your ID, please?
You don't have to have my ID
Okay,
to issue a trespass.
Yes, sir, I do. I need to
If you're
under threat of arrest, I'll give you my ID. I'm going to do something. I won't get in trouble. Okay.
After threatening the cops with a lawsuit, their supervisor arrived, and the conversation continues.
I sue them, we go to court and find out I wasn't there, and you lose your qualified immunity because you didn't investigate. How are you? What was your name and badge number, sir?
Sure, it's Staff Sergeant Johnson, 94159.
Hey, Johnson. I was explaining to them, I'm out here exercising my right, First Amendment right. Private property starts about 1.2 foot on the other side of that telephone pole per government document survey. Anyway, I did my homework. I'm down here giving some people free advertisement. They called the police team. This deputy here legally detained me for 18 minutes and 32 seconds. There's no suspicion of nothing.
Turns out the man was right. He was allowed to record as long as he wasn't physically standing on that property. Next up, a sheriff's officer conducted a traffic stop, directing a man to provide his driver's license, registration documents, and proof of insurance. Curious about the situation, the man sought to understand the purpose of the stop. "What's the reason behind pulling me over?" he asked. In response, the deputy acknowledged the question, but explained that he would share the nature of the stop once he was aware of the individual's identity. With a firm grasp of his rights, the man proceeded to educate the officer about the proper protocol for requesting identification. He clarified that, according to legal standards, the officer needed a valid reason, known as probable cause, in order to ask for his identification. Furthermore, he emphasized that the officer was required to clearly communicate this reason to him.
How you doing? You got your license, registration, proof of insurance with you tonight?
What's the nature of the stop?
As soon as I know who you are, we have to explain that.
Is this Nazi Germany? Do I gotta provide papers before you tell me why?
Well, if I don't know who I'm talking to, in case you run off or flee, I'd like to know who I'm talking to. So if you don't mind providing your identification, I'd be happy to take care of it.
Well, I would take the key out if I could, but I can't.
Okay, no problem.
You do realize in order to get ID from somebody, you have to have a reason and articulate that reason for the stop, right?
I'm well aware of how it works.
Well, you do realize I'm a constitutionalist, so I know this shit. So, unless you can articulate, this is my property, yes. Well, I don't live here, but this is my property. This is not where I'm staying. Follow me. I knew I used my turn signals. I knew I wasn't speeding. As soon as I see you on the side of the road, I see you hit your fucking brake lights. I knew you're gonna with me. I knew exactly what you were gonna do. There's nothing wrong with my car. Every light on my car works. So what's the nature of the stop?
Well, the nature of the stop is, when you went by, it didn't look like there was a front bumper. And then as I was behind the car trying to run a registration, you took multiple turns, and it appeared to be evading me. All I'm doing is checking out what's going on.
You better get your goddamn supervisor. When is it illegal to make turns?
It was
Dude, we both know where this is going, and you know you have no reason to pull me over.
all you need in Michigan is reasonable suspicion to make a traffic stop.
Yes, you have to have RAS. But what is your
During the unfolding events, the man stated that the officer had been tailing him without any apparent justification. Seeking clarification, he once more inquired about the underlying reason for the stop. To the man's bemusement, the deputy attributed the stop to the frequency of turns he had made. It was a response that seemed almost too absurd to be true.
Follow me. I knew I used my turn signals. I knew I wasn't speeding. As soon as I see you on the side of the road, I see you hit your fucking brake lights. I knew you're gonna with me. I knew exactly what you were gonna do. There's nothing wrong with my car. Every light on my car works. So what's the nature of the stop?
Well, the nature of the stop is, when you went by, it didn't look like there was a front bumper. And then as I was behind the car trying to run a registration, you took multiple turns, and it appeared to be evading me. All I'm doing is checking out what's going on.
You better get your goddamn supervisor. When is it illegal to make turns?
It was
Dude, we both know where this is going, and you know you have no reason to pull me over.
all you need in Michigan is reasonable suspicion to make a traffic stop.
Yes, you have to have RAS. But what is your single articulable suspicion?
I feared you were trying to avoid this time.
Bullshit.
Looked like you had a bumper on the front of the car when you went by.
Dude, I'm not giving ID. Because I didn't do nothing wrong.
Is this your car?
It's in my dad's name, yes.
It's in your dad's name?
Yep. Dude, this is going to make an awesome YouTube video. You just admitted that I committed no crime or no traffic infraction. When is it illegal to make turns?
Well,
there is a bumper on my car. Just leave me alone. I'm not doing nothing. Right?
In this altercation, a call came in about a car being parked next to somebody's house. So, this cop shows up and starts harassing the man inside the car.
You were parked in front of his house for about an hour, hour and a half.
yeah. Is that suspicious?
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
The officer approaches the individual and requests his ID, but the man declines, asserting that he hasn't engaged in any unlawful activity. Despite the refusal, the officer persists, prompting the man to clarify that he is merely going about his own affairs while seated in his parked vehicle within a public area.
What is the issue here?
There is no issue. I'm over here minding my own business, sitting in my car, and you're coming up to me.
The man points out that there are no signs indicating a restricted area or private property in the vicinity. Although it takes a bit of time, the officer eventually comprehends the situation and departs. This officer's name is Officer Peterson, and he approached this man for all the wrong reasons. He was allegedly looking for the individual who was filming in the lobby. However, the man chose to use his right to remain silent, which the officer didn't appreciate one single bit. Let's see what happens.
You the one in the lobby?
I don't answer any questions.
Okay, you get to answer a couple.
Consequently, the man decided to ask for the officer's name and badge number, seeking clarity in this uncertain situation. Nevertheless, when he requested this information, the officer declined to provide it. The man's refusal to display his ID was rooted in the fact that he hadn't engaged in any unlawful activity that would warrant such disclosure. Despite this, the officer persisted, prompting the man to question whether he was under arrest. In response, he sought to understand the reason behind his detention, to which the officer responded that he was in the process of determining it. What a bold claim! The officer basically acted before anything happened, harassing an innocent man, just in case he had done something wrong.
Why is that?
Can I get your name and badge number?
Well, you can see it's Peterson, right?
Yes. Your badge number?
210.
210.
How about your
Am I
ID?
being detained?
Yeah, for a minute.
For what crime?
Well, we're filming in people's apartment lobby trying to figure out what's going on.
Is that illegal?
Well, we're trying to figure out...
Subsequently, the man took it upon himself to educate the officer about the legal framework. He pointed out that the officer lacked the authority to detain him since he had not engaged in any unlawful behavior. As the interaction continued, the man expressed his desire to speak with the officer's superior. However, the officer's response revealed a different aspect of the situation. It turned out that the cop held the rank of a sergeant. This unexpected revelation came to light as the officer began providing excuses in response to the man's request for a supervisor.
So what are you detaining me for?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out, man.
Well, you can't detain somebody just until you figure it out.
Yeah, actually we can.
That's not how that works, officer.
Okay. That's your
Can I get your supervisor? Can I get your supervisor out here? I'm asking to talk to your supervisor.
And I'm telling you, you can call the police department and ask for him. Okay?
You can't call your supervisor out here?
Look, right here, boss.
So there's nobody above you?
Yeah, there sure is.
So you're a sergeant? So you're a sergeant and you're... Okay.
As the man chose to remain silent and didn't want to cooperate, the officer later let him go without any consequences. Here, we have another heated situation where a cop pulls out his weapon for no reason. The conversation got very loud and aggressive. Let's take a look why it happened.
You're over here with the door open?
Yeah, we take a piss and look at that.
Is it illegal to have the door open?
The officer inquired if they had been involved in a vehicle accident, and they advised him to inspect the car and conduct his own investigation. However, the officer wasn't satisfied with that response. He insisted on seeing their driver's license and registration. In response, the driver informed the officer that there should be a valid reason or articulable reasonable suspicion for such a request. The driver also questioned whether they had committed any crime that warranted providing their identification.
I want what's called an investigative.
Then you tell me your reasonable, articulable suspicion, and I'll give you whatever you want.
Okay.
Tell me what it is.
So you guys are...
Realizing that arguing with these knowledgeable individuals was futile, the officer decided to call for backup. Despite his attempts, he couldn't provide a clear explanation to these individuals about why he had pulled them over. While waiting for additional officers to arrive, the men agreed to let him examine their vehicle. However, the officer's curiosity wasn't satisfied, and he persisted in questioning them. Despite his efforts, the individuals remained steadfast in their decision to not answer his questions.
All you want, from what you can see, I don't answer any questions.
No, he doesn't.
Pursuant to the Fifth Amendment, I have the right to...
In a parking lot, a man found himself seated in his car, patiently waiting for his wife. At this juncture, Pueblo Officer Pino made his presence known, approaching the man. The officer embarked on an inquiry, seeking to ascertain the man's identity. He referred to a recent piece of legislation that had been enacted, stipulating that he was obliged to gather demographic information about anyone he engaged with, irrespective of whether the interaction was consensual or not.
Lost, man. Make sure you guys are doing okay.
Yeah, we're doing good.
Yeah. Okay, man. What's your name?
For what?
I'm just contacting you. I just have to. So
you have to.
So there's a law that just came out.
Okay.
To where anybody I contact, even if it's consensual, I have to get your demographics that I can
really
say that I contacted you.
The man found himself surprised by the officer's request, and he promptly responded, pointing out that the current state didn't mandate individuals to provide identification upon request. Despite the man's explanation, the officer persisted in his demands. However, the man stood firm, refusing to yield to the officer's insistence. The location was, in fact, a public parking lot and not a private one, a claim he was prepared to back with conviction.
That's not the law.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
With Senate Bills 217.
No, this is not a stop and ID state.
Okay, so I have to say that I did contact you.
Okay, good. You say that.
Okay. And also, when I run the plate,
okay,
it is coming back with a warrant hit.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure that you're not the person. And
Nope, I'm not the person.
So can I get your name?
No.
And why not?
Well, this is first you said that you have to ID me. No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
This is not a stop and ID state.
Says who?
What do you mean says who? It's a law. It's a law,
So
sir.
the law states now that anybody I contact,
Okay.
I need to get an ID so I can say that I contacted you.
No, I don't think so. That's
Yes,
not
it
the
is.
law. This is private property, sir.
It is not. It's a public parking lot.
No, this is private property.
It is a public parking lot.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm sorry.
However, after the man tells the cop that even his kids are scared of him, he just leaves the scene.
You're scaring my kids. There's no point of this. You know, this is ridiculous.
You wouldn't have to scare him if you were cooperative.
Well, no. That's just ridiculous, man. That's just ridiculous. I'm sorry, man.
All right, sir. Have a good day.
You have a good day too.
This next man tells the cops to write a ticket, but they want him face to face instead. Watch what happens next.
Stepping out the vehicle, bro. I didn't do nothing. I didn't do absolutely nothing. If you pull me out this vehicle, I'm going to...
The man firmly declines the officer's request because he knows he hasn't committed any wrongdoing. He asserts that the officers are violating his rights and announces his intention to take legal action against them. Despite their persistence, he stands his ground, suggesting they search the car without him stepping out. When they dismiss his suggestion, he requests a supervisor's presence. During the wait for the supervisor, the man candidly admits that the officers failed to establish reasonable suspicion for the stop.
Here for absolutely nothing. It's fucking ridiculous.
You know what they say, if you have nothing to hide, then you have nothing to worry about.
Legally getting out my vehicle when I haven't done anything wrong. Absolutely nothing. I was pulled over the other morning going to work.
However, the man quickly realizes the officer's tactic and firmly declines to be searched, recognizing his rights in the situation. After a bit of back and forth dialogue, they eventually release him and allow him to go on his way. This guy was stopped by an officer and asked to step out his vehicle. However, he was smarter than the cop. Watch this.
What is your probable cause?
Go ahead and step out of the car, man.
Why?
The officer informed the man that he would show him probable cause once he stepped out of the car. However, the man corrected the officer, explaining that before anything else, the officer needed to provide a valid reason or articulable reasonable suspicion for his request.
What the fuck is wrong with you, Joe?
Step out of the car for
What is your probable cause?
Then, they try to exchange their documents.
Your business card. Your business card, motherfucker.
Do you have a driver's license?
Motherfucker, you have a business card?
At the end, the officer luckily gave up and left the scene.